The Investor Club bonus stories.
Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse, and you're watching the Investor Club bonus stories.
Yeah, so let's talk about this company. It just went public, and I thought you guys should know about it because we're all interested in EV companies, especially if we can invest in them. This is Vulcan Power Sports. Their headquarters are in Texas, and they went public last Wednesday as VLCN on the NASDAQ after coming out of stealth mode back in 2020. Now, we've reported on them before. They were working on a bunch of cool items, which we're actually trying to get our hands on. So they IPO'd at $5.50 a share, although I don't think anyone actually could get it at that price because it immediately came on the market at around $9 or $10 a share. So the big news that day, which the publicity people love, is to be like, it went up so much in that day. But basically, it seems to have settled out. You can take a look at this chart here. Looks like you can get in around the $10 price range. So Vulcan makes the electric fat tire Grunt, which began shipping last month. And they're planning on coming out with the kid version called the Runt. And so that's that here. And it's pretty cool. I like it because it doesn't look like anything else. Like, yes, it's a two-wheeled like motorcycle, but it's an off-road, small tires, just has a real cool stance to it, like a real fun look to it. It looks like the kind of thing you'd want to take out into the brush of Texas. I mean, it really does seem to fit Texas well.
Yeah.
They're then planning to come out with the four-wheeled UTV, the Stag and the Beast. So the Grunt costs $79.95, goes 40 miles an hour, top speed. The Stag, which is the four-wheeled first, like lower version, will be priced at $14,995. Has 70 mile an hour top speed, 150 miles of range, 225 horsepower or 168 kilowatts of power. The Beast will cost you $25,000, goes 80 miles an hour top speed, 150 miles of range again, and has more power, 450 horsepower or 336 kilowatts.
Whoa, stop. It can go 80 miles an hour, and yet it has more horsepower than my car.
Yeah, and it's also the price is interesting to me.
No, stop.
Oh, sorry.
What?
Yeah, sorry.
What? No. What is all this power for? Is this?
I think it's for rock
towing?
climbing.
Oh,
well, yeah,
okay.
towing too, I suppose. But I think it's going to be like a rock climbing beast. Is my guess is that you go out into the wilderness. Now, I think it has a very limited use case, like limited, customer range, because I think that you have to be able to take it someplace off-roady and do off-roady stuff with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think they're getting around a lot of problems that you normally have with a car company with homologation and safety and testing and all that because it's off-road. I think it's not going to be an on-road vehicle, which means that I don't think you have to do as much in terms of safety. So that saved them a lot of money, and I think that's how they're able to come out with it so fast and so cheap. I mean, $25,000 may sound like a lot of money. It is. But look at its stats. I mean, compare this to an Arcimoto.
Well, compared this to
Or Model 3 or Model Y.
compare this to most EVs on the road. I mean, pretty decent range.
I think that range, though, is because you're going to be, I assume, off-roading, right?
Yeah.
Slower speeds.
Yeah, but off-roading is not good on range.
True. I mean, I'm sure that I'm sure that number is just them driving around on the dirt or something at slow
Okay.
speeds.
Still, it's interesting company. Very interesting company to me. I mean, I'm glad that they have this. I think premium EV has a real fresh taste to it right now. People like that,
Right.
Because we kind of have a taste for non-premium EV, whether that be from. I think most EV manufacturers do a fine job in making a vehicle that looks presentable. At least in terms of, the interior, maybe not the exterior. But I think that for, e-bikes and e-motorcycle stuff, I think that there's a lot of Chinesium out there that people don't really respond very positively to.
Chinesium? That's a really good term. I like that.
I think I stole that from AVE or someone. But this stuff seems a little high-priced.
Okay, but here's a couple things that I just am intrigued by. Okay. First of all, we reached out to them in 2020 to get an interview and stuff. They did talk to us, but they're like very stealthy and didn't really want to talk. And I now kind of understand why, I guess. Although, wouldn't publicity around your IPO been good? Interesting that they're kind of an under-promising company. Like a lot of companies come out and they're like, we're going to do this and this and this. And then they kind of over-promise, under-deliver. They seem to be more like, you know what, we're just going to do it. And I kind of like that, actually. Secondly, to IPO is not the same as to SPAC.
Yeah.
So the fact that they got on NASDAQ the kind of traditional IPO route, you can't just do that. You can't just call them up, NASDAQ and be like, I'd like to IPO. You have to have the right financials for your company because NASDAQ has a reputation. And so they have to show, I guess, some revenue. I don't know what the requirements are for this particular listing.
Right.
But that's a good sign because it's not easy to IPO like that. I mean, Arcimoto did it this way, and it takes a while. I like that better than SPACing because SPACing is basically just like, hey, let's just throw money at this.
We found a loophole around the system. So I do like that they IPO'd. You're right. I think that definitely makes me feel a little bit more confident.
But here's the thing. I'm by no means an expert in this space. And I don't know. First of all, we want to get our hands on these vehicles and test them. And so like now that they are done with their stealth mode, we are reaching out to them as we speak to try and get some interviews. I mean, hopefully we'll get an exec so that we can bring them to you on our investor club because that's exactly what we're here for. I want to ask them all sorts of questions about who are your customers? Do you have a lot of pre-orders for these? What other markets do you think you can sell these in? Are you really going to be able to hold on those prices? Are you going to be able to get the batteries you need? How are you different than Chinese companies? Like all these questions I want to get answered. But if it's as advertised, if they can sell to what I'm guessing would be the adventure market, right? There's a market of people out there who want things like jet skis and snowmobiles and stuff like that. If there's the market for this, and again, we're in Massachusetts, so we don't see a lot of these things. But I think that if you're in the middle of the country where there's a lot of room to cover and a lot of ground to cover, I mean, we've been to Texas, and I can picture this in Texas like perfectly.
Sure. I'm gonna tell a bear story.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you my not worst take on the company, but a realistic worst take. You start a company, you want to make electric motorcycles. It's tough to get the price down on something that's good. So,
and you're right. The price was going to be, I think, $59.95,
which would have been acceptable in my opinion. Now we're talking around $8,000 for the Grunt. That's kind of high for a motorcycle.
Yeah, but it's not a typical motorcycle.
I agree, but here's my bear story, at least. And you choose to believe it or don't. This is just one idea that I have. You have some investors in the company. Why are they investing in this company? I think because they want to see this product. So you have some fairly rich investors who actually want to get onto this thing and ride it around. So price doesn't really matter because who are you actually making it for? You're just making it for those initial investors. And you just need to make them happy so they can keep bankrolling your company while you scale up to get the rest of the company going.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a market for it.
Okay, so you're saying that these small number of rich people want this thing, but then when you go out to the main market, it's going to dry up.
Yes. Now, to me, there's a big question, which is that the investors who would be funding this and who obviously want this, they could build something like this with off-the-shelf components, and it would be expensive. It would probably cost more than $8,000. It would probably cost more like $20,000-$30,000. But if they really wanted it, it would be cheaper than investing probably millions of dollars into a company that might not end up turning out to be anything in terms of profitability. But maybe that's the thing that you do to convince your significant other to let you invest in that company. I don't know.
You're so down on, first of all, the price. I don't think that's a bad price. I mean, $8,000 for an adventure vehicle. I mean, I don't know all the stats yet and I haven't ridden it, but if it kind of delivers as promised, I think that's not a bad price because A, you're just starting out. Hopefully prices drop.
Yep.
And B, you're, I assume in the beginning, going after the higher price market so that you can have a higher return on investment, margin.
Right. That's my bear case. I mean, I'm not.
Well, that's kind of the question to you guys. Yeah. I mean, that's why we have the Slack channel. We got 1,600 of you who can help answer this question. Let's get a poll going or something as to do people, count yourself out if you're just never going to buy one of these things anyway. But if you're kind of in the market for it, or if you've are in that world and you're like, oh wow, I can see myself possibly getting something like this. Let's do a poll and see if this is something that excites people, or if they're like, oh no, there's way better options, or I would never pay this price, or it doesn't do what I need it to do.
I mean, to be bullish, it does excite me. Like this, right? Looking at it, I just go,
I want to get on it. Like I'm not even an adventure motorcyclist, but there's something safe about it. I feel like it's because it's lower to the ground. Like, when I look at a standard dirt bike, you're up high. And so I get this feeling of like, if I hit something wrong, I'm going to go flying. This, because it seems to have a lower center of gravity, I feel like I could even handle it at lower speeds.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to fly off a jump.
Right.
It's just going to go over it like it's a hill.
And then the Beast, I mean, I can see wanting to drive on that thing, like for sure.
That's
that
true.
just looks fun.
Yeah, it's tough because I think there are gas powered, not necessarily exact competitors to it, but things that look, other UTV type stuff, and I don't know. Farmers aren't going to go for it. It's too expensive compared to.
I can see starting a sub business off of this, where you have a driving rally course, like what we saw in Texas.
Sure.
You get some of these units, and then you rent them out for the day for people who want to have a fun party with their friends.
Yeah,
and it's like that would be a fun adventure.
I agree. I think that for experience-based
and you could charge a lot.
You could, yeah.
Or if you owned like an Airbnb and you're out in the woods or whatever, and this came with it or something, like that would be fun too.
Yeah, as long as you had insurance on them, yeah.
Right. Anyway, tell us what you think in the Slack channel. Let's start a Slack channel for this and see what people think, because it's now publicly tradable. And, I think bringing these vehicles to mass production is harder than we all think. And so I'm not saying like this is the next Tesla. I'm just saying it's a unique market. I haven't seen this kind of vehicle made here in the US before. And so, yeah, please let us know what you think, and maybe I'll invest in it. I think I'm actually planning on getting into it this week just to, again, help you guys follow it.
So you're not going all in.
I'm not going
not
all in.
Your chips in. It's just
a small investment.
And again, you do your own research.
Right. And we're going to try and bring you, execs to our investor club so you can hear from them firsthand. I think that's really valuable.
I want to know how they got the ticker symbol, VLCN. I mean, that could be Vulcan. That could be another company called Volcon. I mean, it's a cool sounding.
It is.
Yeah, it's neat.
It is.
All right. We'll see you next week. Now you know.